1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620, The Zone.
Folks, it's hard to put into words the job that Cignetti has done. This is a program with no history. None. And in 1 year, he's got this thing into the top 15.
Not a lot of people listening to us that know who Bill Mallory was.
Very few. Another kneel down. One more of those, and we'll put this one in the books, thank goodness.
And we just weren't able to really get anything done on all three sides of the ball today. So very, very, very disappointing. I appreciate all the fans that came here. I appreciate everyone that supports us. And this was certainly not good enough by any stretch. And for that, I'm sorry.
Good morning and welcome to Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. I am Michael Severe, joined by producer Joey, who is in his classic Green Bay Packers hoodie.
I don't have any white uniforms.
Thank God.
For another whiteout.
No surrender whites from Joey. Oh, Nebraska falls to 5-2. You know, I was doing Big Red wrap up on Tuesday night, and was doing an intro, and something went wrong with the teleprompter and whatever, and I was like trying to find something on a paper, and I accidentally said that Nebraska already had 2 losses. I was just anticipating the loss to Indiana. That's all I was doing. I was already ready. You know, the president of the university looked at me like, I was just anticipating the Ohio State loss. I actually was anticipating that, not anticipating the Indiana loss. But we'll get to more of that. Lots to get into this morning. I know you've had a full day. When you have an 11 o'clock game and it's this kind of loss, which Nebraska's had in the past, you've got all day, the rest of the day, to avoid social media or dive in. You know, to avoid the newspaper and articles or dive in. So you've had a chance to go back and look. And you know, we had so many games this year where the game ended. It's nighttime, a Big Red overreaction. You had your sleep and then got up for severe reaction. It was just like turnaround was incredible. But now you have a chance to think about this game and think about how it went and where it went. And the worst loss since 2016, when Nebraska got absolutely destroyed by Ohio State. You have that game. It was 62-3. It was one of the most efficient performances by a Nebraska opponent that I ever remember. And we've seen some good ones. Some really good opponents have come in the Memorial Stadium in his last 25 years and played well. We've seen Nebraska go on the road and play against some really good teams. The difference between those and this one, just off the cuff, is Nebraska fans didn't think they had a chance to win a lot of those games. If you think back to that game in 2016, Nebraska was kind of living on borrowed time, right? Go to Wisconsin. It's a game where you have every chance to win, but you lose it. The winning streak is done. The next week against Ohio State, there was a lot of hope at all, even though Nebraska was still ranked. In this game, the difference was most of the people I talked to this week, the Husker fans, had the same thing over and over. This team in Indiana hadn't played anybody. They're overrated. They're not that great. Who's Curtis Rourke? What did he ever do? He can't move. Oh, their running backs are small. They're undersized. What are they going to do? Oh, their wide receivers are fine. How good could they be? They're transfers from James Madison or somewhere else. That was the comment all week. And no matter how many times I tweeted out or said to people, these are the numbers. Here's what Indiana is doing. No matter who you're playing, if you put these numbers up, you're a good team. Over and over. And no one would go, yeah, you're right. Yep, that's right. Yep. Nebraska could be in trouble. They could be. I don't think anybody thought last week that if it was going to be a blowout, that it would be Nebraska blowing out Indiana. Because Indiana's designed to blow people out. We've seen it all season. They thought Nebraska might win a close game. Maybe Indiana wins a close game. Or maybe this happens. Not 56-7, but they thought maybe this happens. So you're in a situation where you go to play a team who apparently no one believes in, and they prove to you how good they are, and they do it at your expense. Now, I've heard a lot of people say this morning, read this morning, that Nebraska quit right away. Like Indiana went down and scored and it was over. That's not true. That's just not, that's, you're going back, looking at it with hindsight and saying, I remember everything that happened, mid-second quarter on. But remember, this was not an impossible situation. It wasn't. Joey, do you know what the Kobayashi Maru is?
No, I'm not aware of
You
it.
ever watch any Star Trek?
Nope, I did not.
Real quick, the Kobayashi Maru is a test they give to cadets coming out of the academy in Star Trek, right?
Okay.
So they're coming out of it, and the test is simple. You have a ship called the Kobayashi Maru. It's getting attacked, and there's no chance to win. It's called the impossible situation, right? There's no chance to win. Well, Kirk, when he was in the academy, he actually went into the computer and changed it so he could win because he didn't believe in impossible situations. This was not an impossible situation.
No.
The first drive, Indiana goes down and scores, but they get a third down when Nebraska has a chance to get off the field. They have a 43-yard run. Then Nebraska on third down holds them to 8 yards, so it is now 4th and 1. You get to stop there. You're off the field. It's 0-0. They give up the first down and a pass right across the middle. Next play, touchdown. So it's 7-0, and you're in a bad spot. A spot made worse by Ja'Cory Barney catching the ball and going out of bounds at the 2-yard line. Makes it worse, but still not an impossible situation because Nebraska gains and first down, so they're not kicking out of their own end zone, which is a good thing.
Yep.
And then the next drive, despite a 20-yard return, putting Nebraska as one of the worst return defenses and punts in the country, despite that 20-yard return, Nebraska gets a stop on downs.
A huge stop, though.
Huge stop, right? They sack him. Bayer gets a 9-yard sack.
Mm-hmm.
You get the ball back, get some momentum. Nebraska starts driving. They convert 2 third downs. They're sitting there on the 12 at 4th and 1. You got your heavy package in. Dowdell's back there. All he's got to do is hold on to the ball.
Just get that 1 yard and hold the ball.
He gained 2. He gets hit. He fumbles. Ball goes back. All of a sudden now you're down 7-0 and your momentum is a little down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not over. They go down and score and make it 14-0. You go all the way back down and score a touchdown with Ja'Cory Barney. It's now 14-7. Again, not an impossible situation.
Not impossible at all.
But something from that moment on just was broken. After the fumble by Dowdell, Indiana ran 20 plays for like 237 yards. This is a black shirt team that was second in the Big Ten in points allowed, top 10 in yards per play allowed, top 10 in points per game allowed, that allowed 20 plays, 237 yards, all after that fumble.
Also, don't forget that they've not given up a rushing touchdown going into this game, and they gave up several of them.
They gave up at least 2 that I remember.
Yeah.
I think it was 4. There was so many touchdowns being scored, I couldn't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
When I was editing the stuff for today, I thought to myself, damn, this is a lot of highlights.
Yeah.
And I realized almost all of them were Indiana's. So again, it was not an impossible situation. They didn't quit right away, like a lot of people are saying.
No.
They're in the game. They have a chance. But for whatever reason, after that, the offense couldn't get going, couldn't establish the run. The job of the defense was to do one thing, and that was to limit Indiana to doing one thing well.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana came in running for over 200 yards a game, and they had one of the most efficient quarterbacks in all of college football, and a guy who I think still leads at least the Big Ten, maybe the country, in yards per attempt over a certain amount of attempts. You know, they have a classification.
Mm-hmm.
He's like 10.7 yards an attempt.
Yeah.
So you either got to stop the run or you got to stop the pass. They stop neither. And if a defense can't make you left-handed or make you one-handed, whatever, they're going to do that to you. And that's what they did. So you can point fingers at Ja'Cory Barney, what happened going out the 2-yard line. You can point fingers at the offense not being able to do things. But a big point of the finger needs to go at the defense. And what the black shirts did over the course of 2.5 quarters, where they gave up almost 400 yards, and I think, 6 touchdowns, because the first one happened before that. So 6 touchdowns over the course of that stretch. That's ridiculous.
Pretty much what gave me a preview, the outcome of the game, was that first possession where Nebraska got Indiana backed up a bit when they were driving down. They had like a first and 19. And
penalty, after the holding.
And Indiana just efficiently used their check down plays to get closer. And then that's when the 4th and 2 play came by, and they went for it and got the first down.
Well, they were averaging 9.7 yards a play.
Yeah.
You know what that is? It's a first down.
Yeah, pretty much first down.
It's a first down. That's what they were doing. Again, lots to get to on the show. We are going to talk about a couple things that were positive from the game, like Thomas Fidone, but we got a lot to get in, obviously, that wasn't good. We'll go back to keys. We'll look at those. We'll do a bunch of things. We'll talk to Stephen M. Sipple after 9 o'clock, who is in Indianapolis coming off that game yesterday. But the main part of the show is, of course, always for you, 402-951-1620. Remember this. 12 plus 7 is 19. That's how many games Matt Rhule has coached so far at Nebraska. 19. I think it is pretty much impossible, in my opinion, to judge someone's future based on 19 games. You can do it if you want. I'm just telling you. I'm going to push back on this being done or over after 19 games. It's not. This is a year ahead of what most people thought the schedule would be. You knew you'd have a freshman quarterback. You knew it would be year 2. Most people thought it would be year 3, because that's what Matt Rhule's done over his career. Thought that would be it. So again, you can feel like it's over if you want. I will push back against that because I believe it's too early to say that. Yesterday was a disaster. Many days will be disasters. It doesn't mean you can't come back from a disaster. Okay? All right, let's go to the phones. 402-951-1620. That's where Matthew is to kick it off this morning. Good morning, Matthew.
Hey, good morning, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm recovering from that loss yesterday.
Yeah.
I like your positivity there just now. It's kind of how I wanted to start too. Just want to say, the sky isn't falling. I still feel good about that Rhule overall, and I think the direction of the program, they're in it still with some good recruits. That loss sucked a lot yesterday. I think it's going to be a tough couple of weeks here with Ohio State going into the bye week.
Yeah.
But really, I think UCLA, looking at the remaining schedule, I think UCLA becomes a must-win to hit that 6-win schedule or that 6-win mark. I think that's kind of the benchmark for success this year. One thing is I hadn't heard the phrase leaky yardage until a couple of weeks ago going into that Illinois game when you were saying it.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I hear it all the time. Final thing I'll kind of pose you as a question is just with the offensive struggles. Do you think it's a mix of, or it's probably a mix, but what do you think is kind of the biggest factor between rookie QB? Seems like the wide receivers aren't getting great separation, or that we have some big physical receivers that just can't get balls. Tight ends don't seem to be involved, although Fidone had a big play yesterday. And I'm not questioning play calling, but seems like we do a lot of kind of sideways sweeps and stuff. And I know that's maybe the best way to get Ja'Cory involved. But what do you think are kind of the big, maybe 2 biggest reasons why the offense is struggling?
Matthew, I appreciate the call, man. I will go over that. So the first one is, and I didn't understand it when it happened, and I've said this over and over, and I've been on multiple shows. I don't know Coach Satterfield. I don't know him. I've never spoken to him. But there was nothing in his past that qualified him to be the offensive coordinator now at Nebraska. Nothing. Unless you want to count the 4 or so games they had at South Carolina when they went on a run with an NFL quarterback, no matter what you think about Spencer Rattler with the Saints, he's the NFL quarterback, and multiple wide receivers and or talent around him that were capable of explosive plays. That is it. Go back anywhere else in his career. There's nothing in his career that tells you that man should have been the offensive coordinator. I never understood it. I still don't understand it. I've said it multiple times since he was hired. I don't get it. You have all the money in the world to go out and get yourself an offensive coordinator. It doesn't have to be someone you know or somebody you like. It needs to be someone who will get the job done. There are two ways to do things in life. They're not the ultimate ways. Neither one of them has to work perfectly, but there are two ways to do it. You can be process-oriented or you can be results-based. One can lead to the other, but you got to be one or the other. What were the results of Satterfield as an offensive coordinator in other places that made you think that he was going to be successful here? You can go through the process all you want, do everything you want, the research you want, the practice you want, the planning you want, everything. But if you don't have the results, you are a loser. You are a failure. You are not capable of doing the job. What tells you, watching this, in any way, that the plays that are being called or the way they're being called are correct? Nothing about it. Look at last year. It was great. They went to the option and they got Ron Brown involved. They did all this. That was beautiful. What tells you they're going to put a capable Big Ten offense on the field when you watch it? You've got a freshman quarterback who requires a successful running game, period. He has to have it. He cannot drop back 44 times a game. He cannot. What tells you they are doing anything that can be successful in the Big Ten with that guy calling plays? I just don't understand it. Again, maybe a wonderful guy. I have no idea. I've never talked to him. But I can tell you, history tells me that he will not get the job done. That is an issue. There's lots of other stuff. And the play calling is not great, obviously. I think that you watch enough of Dylan Raiola, you see he's got a lot to go. He's got a lot to learn. His footwork is bad. His anticipation isn't great. I think he's seeing some ghosts now. We talk so much about guys not being open. This is a level where guys aren't going to be wide open. They have to make plays when you throw it to them. They have to win one-on-ones, but you have to also give them the chance to do that at times. If you got a quick rollout and there's a guy open on a quick out, that ball's got to come out then. In this league, there's no thinking twice. There's none. It's got to come out. And he'll get to that, I think. I think he's going to get better. The amount that he is better in his second year compared to his first year is going to be incredible. I think personally, based off what I've seen from him, and I know of Dylan Raiola's, this is preparation. I get it. I think he will. But right now, he's a part of the problem. The run game's a problem. The offensive coordinator's a problem. I don't think the offensive line is as horrible as we're talking about. It's not great, but I don't think it's horrible. There's a lot of other issues on this team offensively. Let's go back to the phones. It's where Red is this morning. Oh, what's up, Red? How you doing, man?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing. I miss your deep voice, man.
Hey, brother, I had to call today, man. I just couldn't take it anymore. You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's see. Well, you remember you started off with the number 19.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Paul Hardcastle's song 19 came to my mind. You remember that song way back in the day?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But anyway, you said 19 is not, and I have to agree with you there, Al. 19 is not a big enough number, a snapshot that you make a head coaching change. But I'm asking you, what number would indicate a staff change? And you kind of alluded to Satterfield. When a program fires a coach or has a coach move on, he's hired at another program, and the entire fan base has nothing to say but thank you for taking him off our hands.
Yeah, I know.
That threw up a red flag to me instantly.
Yep.
Okay. I often say this to fellow Husker fans when we're talking and debating Husker football. At some point, loyalty can be a thorn in the side for head coaches because they feel loyalty to a certain assistant that happens to be their friend. I often say that Bill Callahan would still be here if he would have fired his defensive coordinator. He could have left on his own recognizance and not get fired because you remember the offense was putting up crazy points. We had 4 or 5 star players on offense, but the defense couldn't stop a running nose. One thing that has been consistent for me in our failures is that the one position group that has, and they are better, but the O-line still needs work.
Yeah.
You build a program from inside out on both sides of the line. It happened on defense, even though they didn't show up yesterday. But that unit is totally improved over the last 10 years. I don't know, man. I mean, I just sat there and looked at the game. I said, is this karma? I mean, how many times have we blown out teams 57-3 over the years?
Yeah.
And I'm a guy that believes what goes around comes around. If anybody could come up with that number, how many times we've blown out teams, and now we're getting blown out like that, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy guy or whatever like that. Things of that nature. But what goes around comes around, and we're reaping what we dished out for years.
Yeah,
it seems like. So
hey, Red, real quick, I want to tell you about loyalty. I remember I had I think it was my sophomore year religion teacher, because I went to Calvary school, and he said, "Don't forget, Jesus was loyal to Judas." He said, "Loyalty will get you killed. Loyalty will get you killed."
Hey, right, you're right. I'm gonna leave you with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm going to war, if I'm going to war with somebody,
yeah,
I'm going to a bar and I gotta go fight this bar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a dude. I don't care if I know him and I like him, but he still don't have hand skills.
Mm-hmm.
He still can't throw down.
Right.
I'm not taking him there with me.
Right.
I'm taking a dude in there in the bar, even though I don't know him, but I know he got mad hand skills.
Yeah.
He got mad hand skills, bro. I don't know you, but I'm gonna get to know you after we clean up this bar.
Right.
And when we come out the bar, we're gonna go chop it up. And I'm gonna get to know you.
Right.
He had every opportunity to go out and get a proven offensive coordinator. But you go get this cat? Come on, man. Hey, man, God bless you, El. Good talking to you.
All right, Red, have a great rest of your Sunday, man. Let's take a phone call, another one before we take a break because we're a little bit over. KG, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Great. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I see your loyalty with your Saints hoodie on.
Hey, man, I will always be a Saints fan. I have 2 tattoos. One's my name. The other one is the Saints fleur-de-lis. I will always be a fan. I'll just be miserable.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, I'm a Panthers fan, so I'm right along with you.
No doubt.
Hey, I got 2 things. So first of all, I never want to see the all whites again. Never. I hate the all white uniforms, and I don't know if it's just me, but when I heard that they were wearing the all whites on the radio, I was like, oh, this game's over with. That was my first take.
Yeah.
And the second take is, isn't our payroll better than Indiana's payroll?
I would assume it is.
Yeah, especially with the players we're recruiting,
mm-hmm.
We're paying them a lot more than Indiana's payroll. What did you say?
I would say it's pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, so
I know they raised KG. I think I remember reading they raised something like $4 million right away for NIL to bring in guys from the portal. If I remember correctly, that was the article I read, which I know Nebraska's more than that.
Oh, way more than that,
yeah,
right? So, are we missing it on these players or something? Because I know they want us to invest, but why would I invest when I know what's the end result, like you're talking about? What's the point of investing if I don't see good results?
Right.
So I'm just wondering about that. I don't, because like last year they totally missed on Sims.
Yep.
So are they? Is it the coaching staff missing on these players, or what is going on? I'll let you talk, and it's always good hearing from you, Mike. But you take care, all right?
You too, KG. Take it easy, man. KG sent me a DM like around the middle of the third quarter. He said, "I'm turning this off." I said, "I understand, man. I completely. If I didn't have to watch it, I probably would turn it off myself. I would turn it off myself. No. Yeah, it's the coaching staff obviously that evaluates and base it on previous experience with these players. If you listen to what Kirk Cinetti said about building this team, he built it on guys he knew from James Madison, guys who were winners because James Madison was a winning program. And then they went out and they got guys not who had potential. They went out and got guys who had already proven themselves. They had proven themselves the level they were at. If they were at the Sun Belt, they were Sun Belt Player of the Year. If they were in the MAC, they were the MAC Quarterback of the Year, like Curtis Rourke was in 2022. They went out and got guys who were proven commodities, had a lot of play, a lot of games, a lot of snaps, and had won. That's what he wanted to get. And he brought those guys in, and then he put them into the culture that he brought over from James Madison, and it worked. And it has worked so far. So that's how you have to do it. You can spend all the money you want, much like Nick Saban said early on in the season. You can spend $20 million, but you're not picking it right. You're out of luck. And sometimes it's been that way. I think Nebraska did a great job bringing Isaiah Nair. I think Jamal Banks, they're both very good players. I think they require a system and play calling better than what they have right now. But I think Dowdell, despite the fumble yesterday, has shown some things that was a good guy to bring in. I think all of it's just not coming together because when something happens, like it happened yesterday, whether it be the fumble or the interception or whatever else, they just can't get off the deck from that. And when has this offense looked really, really good for a long period of time? I'm talking 2 quarters in a row. It happened against Colorado for a while. Something about this offense is broken from the inside. And I don't think it's the offensive line. I don't think the quarterbacks, you can't fix him. I don't think it's the running backs you can't fix. I think there's something bigger than that. A grand change has to happen. I'm going to take a quick break because we're over. Jay, Random Mike, Shane, Dave, quick break. We'll be right back. We'll get back to your calls here on Severe Reaction.
Ellison's the back. Big 3rd and 2 coming up here from the IU 33. First drive of the game. They motion the tight end Horton. Rourke, hands extended, flips it out to Ellison, trying to get around the left edge. He's got a first down, cuts back to the middle of the field. 40, 45, 50. It's a foot race now. 40, 35. Hartzog finally throws him down at the 24-yard line. A bust on the run gap measure. That time, that's only the 3rd run all year against the Black Shirts of over 10 yards. Indiana on the year, 6 of 11 on 4th down. This is 4th and nearly 2. Ball just inside Nebraska 15. Rourke motions a man. Cross. Gets the snap, back to throw. Rourke has some time over the middle. Pass caught first down at the 5-yard line. Little quick slant route. Knocking him down was Gifford, but it's a 1st and goal now for Indiana. The catch made over the middle by IU. So 4th down conversion against the Black Shirts. Tight formation. Ellison's the back, working the gun. The turn, give it off to Ellison to the right side, and there's the first rushing touchdown of the year given up by the Black Shirts. What a drive by Indiana. They have taken a 6-0 lead.
Didn't really make a play to get off the field. Malcolm made the one play before the half. He jumped up and knocked away the post, and that was really the only one that we had. So I haven't seen a day like that defensively. Even if you go back to Michigan for us last year, obviously that game got away from us, but it was never a day where we just couldn't get a stop. I don't think we used the punt return team till the 4th quarter. We had the one stop on 4th down, but they played fast. They played decisively. Their backs ran hard, and we didn't tackle.
Welcome back. Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. I know they say ifs and buts or candy and nuts every day would be Christmas, but I go back to that fumble. I still think Indiana wins the game. I don't think Indiana blows them out the way they did. Part of the blowout is because Nebraska was going forward on 4th downs when they normally would punt, taking chances they normally wouldn't take because they were so far down. But you get a touchdown there and you make it 7-7. Maybe Indiana goes back down and scores right away, makes it 14-7. Well, you turn around, you come back, you make it 14-14. You're battling. It's basically the Maryland-Indiana game all over again. And then it comes down to who makes the mistake on turnovers, like in that game. Or it's the Indiana Northwestern game all over again, where it's a 4-point game going in the fourth quarter. But that fumble, then Nebraska not being able to get any stops, and then not being able to score after that, it puts you in a position where you start taking huge chances, and you see what happens. You lose 56-7. Again, I know. Ifs, buts. I get it. But that fumble, when it happened and how it happened, was a huge play. And maybe in the grand scheme of Marvel Universe with different dimensions or whatever, it goes differently. I don't know. Just a thought. Let's go back to the phones, 402-951-1620. That's where Dave is this morning. Good morning, Dave. How are you doing?
Hey. Well, a lot better than it was yesterday.
I bet.
One thing about this show I really like, as opposed to big red overreaction, is the fact that, you have a day to kind of think about it a little bit, overnight. Mm-hmm. And you can think a little bit more, I think, analytically about it and not be so emotional. And that's one thing I really like about the show. There is one thing, though, that kind of concerned me, though, a little bit,
mm-hmm.
About the defensive scheme. And that was this. Okay, we know that Indiana likes to run RPO.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And when I grew up as a kid, I turned 52 in November.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're relatively, you're a little older than I am, but anyway. But one thing I always was trained is this: anytime you have a team that runs a little option, I always thought you always did cover 2 over the top, and instead of but Tony White liked using that man to man. And that I don't quite understand. Can you explain why he's doing man-to-man against an RPO?
I can say this, Dave, and thanks for the call. If you go cover 2, if you play too high against a team that runs the ball for 200 yards a game, they're just going to run the ball at you. They're going to count the box and just run the ball. He's just going to give it. I understand what you're saying. If you really the touchdown off the RPO was just a mistake by number 3 on that one. Number 3 has got stay home. It's not his job to be the pressure player there. It's the end in the defense. That's his job. And once he came, the play was over because Singleton had to deal with 2 blocks and there was no chance. So that was a mistake. I don't think in this era against that kind of team that can run the ball, you can line up in too high. I just know you can. And by the way, you're in cover 2, those corners for those first 5-10 yards, they're man no matter what. They're releasing yes to the over-the-top play, especially in Tampa too. But what you have to do against this type of offense is you have to play the mesh, stop the run, and force Rourke to make plays to beat you. And when they've gotten stopped, it's when he hasn't been able to make those throws. Look at the 4th down play when Nebraska got the sack. You can go back and watch Northwestern when they made plays to stop him, when Maryland made plays to stop him. It's about stopping him once you've stopped the run. So whatever you're lining up in, you have to have enough guys in the box to stop that run. And at the same time, you have to have great eyes to not make a mistake like number 3 made on the touchdown throw to the side, which Singleton puts him in a bad spot. But it's the whole process of the RPO, just like the option when people praise Nebraska for running it, it just makes the defense have to be disciplined, right? You remember watching Nebraska play all those years and how many times you watch tight ends running wide open down the middle of the field? That's because eventually the defense loses its discipline and goes, I'm going to go make a play. And as soon as you do that, the ball's pulled, quarterback standing up, he's throwing the ball. You have to stay at home. Your eyes have to be good, and you've got to do your job. You try to do everybody else's job, that's what happens. And we saw that yesterday on the RPO and several other plays as well. Let's go to Jay. He's been holding the longest. What's up, Jay?
Hey, Michael. I think this is probably your best show of all the radio shows you've done in the Midlands over the years. So thank you for that each week.
Thanks, Jay.
I think it's pretty clear Nebraska gets the least bang for its buck of any major college sports program, gleaming facilities, interest, sellouts.
Yeah.
And then while we're underachieving and not doing much, the Kansas States, the Iowa States, the programs around here, Kansas, Wisconsin, Iowa, they're not grabbing national titles, but they're winning bowl games. They're pulling upsets. They're being relevant. They're ranked. We still look down as Nebraska fans at the Iowa States and the Kansas States and the Kansases. Meanwhile, Iowa State's, ranked in the top 10. Kansas State wins bowl games, and Wisconsin is struggling a teeny bit, but they're still, Iowa's ranked normally. They don't do great in some big games and bowl games sometimes. But Nebraska, put all the money, all the interest. Maybe we need gold-plated toilets at that new Osborne Legacy. Maybe that'll get us over the top. The one thing that nobody talks about, to wrap up my call, Michael.
Yeah.
The layer. And you've been around following Husker athletics closely for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
There's the old days of Boyd Epley and Fat Fox, Don Bryant, and Barbara Hibner, and Al Papik, and Gary Bargan, and on, even the Francis Allens. And I know there's talented people still in that athletic department. There's some good coaches, John Cook, Rhonda Ravel, Amy Williams. I'm not saying there's not some solid coaches. The bowling coach is good. But that layer, that underground, the background layer, the Devaney, the Osborne, the Bill Byrne, that layer is completely gone. Nobody talks about that. The Butch Huggs, that layer that backed up the success of the 80s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, it's not there anymore. And to me, it shows, when you've got, sometimes we make hiring decisions like an early guy in his early 20s to coach receivers. He's a good kid. He works hard. He's probably going to be a solid coach throughout his career.
Yeah.
But come on, give me some, like you said earlier in the show, go out and get an offensive coordinator with some chops. He doesn't have to win a national title, because we ain't going to win any national titles anytime soon. But the layer of keeping track of all this in a high profile athletic department where it means so much, it's long gone. And the only thing that the Nebraska fans have now, really, is we've got national football championships in the last 50 years. That's the only thing we've got on the Wisconsins, the only thing we got on the Iowas and the Kansas State and the Iowa States. Otherwise, we are a hot mess. Thank you, Michael.
I appreciate it, Jay. So a bunch of things you said there, and I knew about, I'd say 3/4 of the names. Some of those people I didn't know, but I do know what you mean. And I will tell you that this program, in terms of its skeleton, has great bones. Whether it is the marketing department, it is the sports information department, it is the strength conditioning department, whatever you want, promotions department, the bones are great. I've said this for years. If Nebraska only played great football, wow, what a program it would be. Because everything else, I'm telling you, there are great people, nationally known, award-winning people throughout that program at multiple levels that you don't ever hear about. In the end, though, it's not leading to winning. And you named a bunch of Big 12 schools. Let's just talk about yesterday. UCLA getting off of the deck and going and beating Rutgers. Maryland playing a game where they're down 14, they're struggling, coming back, going for it on fourth down, using the analytics to go for 2 when they're down 14. So when they score the next time, they go up for a touchdown to block a field goal, up 6 to keep you in the game. Illinois, who I thought was going to get run all over by Michigan, played a great game, had a fake punt after Michigan got their score when it was 13-7 and they were up against the ropes, had a fake punt that got them down to score to go up 20-7. And then Michigan State, who is just broken and beaten for the last couple of years, went out and hired a great coach. I mean, a great coach in Jonathan Smith. And look at them yesterday and what they did to Iowa. Yeah, Iowa was in a bad spot coming off of what they played last week, against Washington. But look what Michigan State did. They didn't punt. All four of those teams needed a win and went out and got a win. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Random Mike, Shane, and Matt, stay right there. We'll get you when we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Now motions a man across the formation. Back to throw is Rourke being rushed, gets hit, and goes down. The Huskers get him a sack. It's Mekhi Bear with a sack for the Big Red, his first of the year, and the Husker black shirts do rise to the occasion and shut off the Indiana drive. Dowdell is the back. Huskers huddle. Break the huddle. Tight formation. I formation. No wideouts either side. Dylan turns, gives it off to Dowdell right side. He's got the first down. Nope. The ball comes out. The ball's out at the 12-yard line. If Nebraska recovers, they don't have the first down. It's behind the sticks. So it really doesn't matter. It's going to be IU football. And they do have the ball. Yard pickup. They go fast turn. Rourke throws it the flat pass. Caught the 5. That's a touchdown for Indiana. Miles Price. Looked like it was going to be a run play. Rourke takes the ball out of the belly. Finds Price in the flat. They went tempo. Caught Nebraska a little on their back feet. And it's a 13-0 Indiana lead.
We had some opportunities. We start with the ball on the 2-yard line. We have a couple chances to get off the field on the first drive. We can't make those plays. We have a chance to get off the field. We have a chance to answer. We step out of bounds at the 2. We fumble the ball in the red zone. And but at the end of the day, we just couldn't really tackle the back today. Couldn't stop the run. And they made a lot of big plays in the vertical passing game. And just was bad football by us.
Welcome back. Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and answer the phone on the first ring. And, of course, Nebraska Medicine. Looking for great people to work for Nebraska Medicine. Check them out. Go online, Nebraska Med, and check that out. And we appreciate them for everything they have done for my family. I'm a huge fan of Nebraska Medicine. We'll go to Shane. Hey, Shane, what's up, man?
Hey, Michael, how's it going? You're just talking about the bones of the athletic department. Previous caller brought it up. I was, one of those bones. Used to work in sports information, longtime contributor to Unsportsmanlike Conduct back in, the latter years of 2000, probably 5 to 10 or whatnot.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not going to offer anything that's going to contribute
to the conversation moving forward as it pertains to Nebraska football in 2020, whatever year we're in, 2024.
Yeah.
I have one of my biggest pet peeves and TS brought it up, is to suggest that Bill Callahan would still be here if Kevin Costner was not retained. Like, that guy was, I know because you were there. Bill Callahan was looking to get back into the NFL at any hint of any success at Nebraska.
Yeah.
And sorry, I just had to point that out. Either way, I'm absolutely massively disappointed with what happened yesterday, and I have no idea how to fix it. And if you could offer up any hope, I would be greatly appreciated. So
I appreciate it, Shane. Thanks, and thanks for all the contributions over the years. Yeah, I mean, if they win the Big 12 title in 2006, right? They go to Kansas City, they beat Oklahoma, and they go to a really good bowl game. I think 2007 would have been different. I think the recruiting, they would have nailed the recruiting. I think they wouldn't have been as stressed about getting ready for USC in 2007. And I've always said I thought they would play well in 2007. Maybe they even start Joe Gans opposed to starting Sam Keller. But I think by 2008, yes, Bill Callahan, if he had back-to-back successful seasons, he would have been looking to get in the NFL for sure. Yeah, but I think what he meant was you just can't rely just on your friends and the loyalty to your friends. You have to make decisions based off of, as I said earlier, results. Results are ultimately what you have to make decisions on. And if you're not getting the results, whether you're friends or not, you got to make a change. Let's go back to the phones where Random Mike is this morning. What's up, Random Mike? How you doing?
Hey, did you predict an Indiana win?
To anybody who asked me off the air, I did. But I did not. I did not on Big Red Wrap Up because it makes zero sense for me to do that because after the first couple of years, I don't need that pain.
Okay, I understand. What you're saying about our offensive coordinator and loyalty, there's a lot behind that. But I'm thinking, you and Joe Gans. Once Joe Gans got in there, I was thinking, man, leave it to Callahan. He wasn't even playing his best quarterback.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty obvious how good he was. And I'm thinking, what can we do? And I haven't studied the film, so I'm not going to pretend to be knowledgeable. But I know what my eyes are telling me. Jalen Lloyd gives them speed, which they need.
Yeah.
He ought to play more and get to more and stretch the field. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I thought he would have a much bigger game yesterday, just because of what he can do in the middle of the field. But yeah, I think he had 3 catches, and that's the most for his career, I believe, in one game.
And he can stretch the field.
No, I agree.
He's got the legitimate speed.
Yep.
So we play him more. And I think Gary mentioned this. If Van Poppel really makes a difference, get him in there. I mean, this redshirt crap, we're not good enough to be doing that. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree with you. The only problem with it is that you also have to think about, how many snaps is he going to get, and whether it be worth it to burn the red shirt for what you can get from him next year. So I think it'd be really difficult. And against a team like yesterday, that's not a game for him. That's not a game for him. That's a game for him is what we would see against a Wisconsin or Illinois or somebody like that. I don't think yesterday was a game for him.
And one more thing against Ohio State, you're talking about the option. Harburg playing him a significant amount and give Ohio State something more to worry about. I think the feeling before was our freshman quarterback is so talented, we want him in there all the time.
Yeah.
But it's obvious that he slacked off for whatever reason a little bit. You don't have to have him in there all the time. What do you think about that?
I agree with you completely. Thank you, Random Mike. We've talked about it a lot over the course of the years of this show. Is that it's really, really hard to just say, I'm going to line up in the Big Ten and I'm going to run the ball right at you. You have to have one of 3 things. You have to either have a great offensive line, an above average running back or running backs, or the ability to throw the ball to the point where people are going to play you at light boxes because they're so concerned about your passing game. If you don't have any of those 3, you have to have a mobile quarterback who can put run game into your offense, right? Currently, Nebraska can't necessarily just line up because the offensive line's not great, the running backs are not great, and they're not throwing the ball to the point where people have to have a light box. So what do you have to have? You have to have a quarterback who can actually give you that +1. And currently, that's something that Dylan can't do. He can't do that. So, yeah, I believe in playing Harburg occasionally throughout the country. Watch those games. I probably watch 30 games a week. Almost every team has a package for somebody. You could have a package for him. I don't think it's going to hurt the development of Dylan Raiola if you put that package in there. One more call before we take a break because we are way behind. Let's go to Matt. Go ahead, Matt. How are you?
Hi, love the show.
Thanks, Matt.
I always love your analytic mind. How you always say when you cross the 50-yard line or 40-yard line, I can't remember.
Yeah, 40-yard line. Yep.
4 points.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did Nebraska go on 4th down yesterday? Because they have no kicking game.
Yep.
It's amazing. You think the turn of the tide was when Dowdell fumbled.
Right.
I think when they were down 7-0, they're in field goal range. They go for it on 4th and don't get it.
Yeah.
Because that gives them confidence.
Matt, let me be honest though, Matt. I think they knew in that game early on that they weren't going to be able to stop Indiana consistently. So it was a touchdown game, not a field goal game. But I understand what you're saying. Most games I'm taking the points there, but I thought that was the right decision to go for it there. And hell, they made it. Running backs can't drop the ball, God, they made it.
But in the future, I mean, against an Iowa, Wisconsin, where it's a tight game, you can't be giving up 9 points a game.
Yes.
And going, I remember they went like 4th and 8 before the end of the half, or I can't remember exactly when. But I mean, what are the odds of you getting a 4th and 8? You're in field goal position. In the future against an Iowa, Wisconsin, you're going to have to hit that. And the fact that with all that you were talking about NIL earlier, the fact that they can't fill that room up with some kids that can kick a 40-yard field goal, a 35-yard field goal, is for a blue chip program is, I think, a worry going forward. Yeah. So, I'll listen off. I'll get off and listen to you. Yeah. Great show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Look, I went to a game on Friday night. And I watched a kid from Millard North kick a 52-yarder that had been good for 60. They have guys. I mean, Tristan Alvano's not healthy, obviously. I know Tristan Alvano can make kicks in the Big Ten. I know he can. I think Nito Adamanelli will eventually be a good kicker for this program if he gets the opportunity. I think he's got that kind of leg. And I think John Holt can make plays too. I think he can make kicks. But the whole operation is bad. The long snap, occasionally the hold, and then the kick. I mean, it's everything about it. No, I agree with you. They should be able to have that operation working well. We'll take a break. Old man Doug, Lance, Scott, stay right there. We got to get caught up here on Severe Reaction.
Gets the snap, takes the handoff, back to throw on a play action. Step shows deep down the field. The man is out there, makes a catch inside the 10. That's Omari. Cooper at the 9-yard line beat the coverage that time of Marquise Buford. Hoosiers in business, first and goal at the 7-yard line.
Just winning their one-on-ones on the outside.
Little pistol set, Lawton right behind Rourke from the 1. Rourke snaps the hands, gives it off to the fullback. Touchdown, Indiana. Their second rushing touchdown of the day, and just like that, they get the lead back to 2 scores at 20-7. Lawton on the carry finds pay dirt for Indiana.
I would be remiss if I did not give a ton of credit to Coach Cignetti and what he's done, the way that they play, offense, defense, and special teams. Just a lot of credit. And, on our end, as I just told the guys in there, this happened on my watch, and I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't see this coming. I thought we were going to play great.
Welcome back to your reaction here on 1620 The Zone. 402-951-1620 is the number to answer Greg's question. 0 for 5 on 4th down yesterday. I believe going forward on most of those. I guess you could make it 7-3 there early on, but at the same time, you got that big offensive line. You bring in Mazuka to be your extra offensive lineman. You got the 230-pound back. You should believe that you can get that. You should believe it. You should be able to do it too. So I understand going for it there on 4th down. Brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and answer the phone on the first ring. Listen, I don't have the kind of money our next guest does. I just don't. I don't have the kind of money the next caller has. So I don't know what it's like to be a contributor to a program and then the program not play well and have to figure out what I'm going to do with my money. But the next caller does. Old man Doug joining us here on Severe Reaction. Good morning, Doug. Hello? Old man Doug? Uh-oh. Hello?
No, good morning.
Oh, there he is. Hey, what's up?
I had it on mute. Sorry.
Oh, did you hear my introduction? Do I have to do it over again?
No, I heard it.
Okay.
I really don't have that much money.
No,
that's okay.
It's somebody else's money. That's who it is.
Yeah, I get the money out and throw it in the vault.
Yeah.
Rub myself down with some maple syrup every day, and then I kind of roll around in it.
I understand.
See what sticks. I'm just kidding, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow, there's been some great calls. They've completely stolen my thunder. As far as and even in your front, the emotional and financial investment by the fans and the business people and the sponsors and all that.
Yeah.
And the return on investment is just negative. It's just unbelievable how it's just like Groundhog's Day. We're in this constant nightmare. I do think I am not calling for Rhule to be, fired
right
at this point. Now, if next year we're still having this, then yes. And he's paid a lot of money. And when you get paid a lot of money, then you have a lot of responsibility. It's not, and that's the disappointing thing when a team like Indiana comes in. And to me, it felt like we just got beat by James Madison because most of their players were from James Madison.
A lot of them, yeah.
The Frost, hangover is still there. The most disappointing comment yesterday from the press conferences was Jamari Butler.
Oh, yeah.
And saying that we hung our heads.
Yeah, right.
You're coming off a bye week. You have the absolute, I don't care what anybody says, Nebraska has the number one training facilities in the country right now. Number one. Recovery, all this. And they had no energy, and they looked tired. And I'm like, how do you explain that? I mean, coming off of a bye week. And then, but I'm just going to quote a guy named Harvey McKay. He wrote a book, How to Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive. It's a great business book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about sales and relationships. And he actually helped, get the Mall of America going in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And he also, helped, with the Mall of America, keeping the Vikings there, with the Metrodome, and all that. But he has all these lessons. And this is my message to Rhule. It's not the people you fire that make your life miserable. It's the ones you don't. And the cronyism that I'm seeing, and a lot of people have pointed this out. I mean, literally, all the prior callers have hit on my hot buttons. But, we got I think McGuire's going to be a good coach in time, but right now is not his time. You're right. Satterfield has never done anything to indicate he was going to be a good offensive coordinator. We've got plenty of money, and now we're going to continue to keep a program in the basement because of friendships. That doesn't work. Rhule's paid too much to run this program for friendships. I'm not saying fire him now. I get it. He doesn't do it. But if he doesn't make changes at the end of the season, I don't know what everyone's going to do, because this is not a good season. I expected us to win. But if we would have played a good ball game, obviously Indiana's better than everybody thought, including me. I was dead wrong about them. I thought Nebraska's schedule was tougher, not by a lot, but
it was close.
And we just got curb stomped. I mean, that game wasn't even competitive. And that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me with all the money and emotional investment and people that care. And this is what we get.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
I know. Doug, we appreciate it. I hope you get to play some golf today.
Okay. Well, I'm going to my grandson's cross-country meet. That's why I'm not golfing.
Okay. Well, good luck to your grandson. Thanks, Doug.
All right. Take care.
All right. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We will chat with Stephen M. Sipple on the other side in Indianapolis. Remember, it's 19 games, people. 19 games. It's a long way to go. Long way to go. We're back here on Severe Reaction.
Indiana goes quickly, snap back, give it off to Ellison, picks his way for a first down, look out, 20, jukes a man to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, touchdown. Indiana, Justice Ellison. Made a couple of Huskers miss, and Indiana having their way right now against the Black Shirts. Does Indiana bring heat? They're showing it. Back to throw is Dillon. Steps. It's picked off. Intercepted far sideline to the 30 is Asbury to midfield. Down the far sideline, 40, 35, 30. Ankle tackled from behind of the 19-yard line by Ramir Johnson. But a huge INT by Sean Asbury, the safety for Indiana, forged Nebraska's drive and might be a backbreaker on this game today.
I'm probably not in the right mind frame to do like a big picture thing. I'll be happy to answer that probably on Monday. As I think through it, just I'm still so in the moment here today. I think the biggest thing today, Sip, is there's nothing that's happening that's like easy and routine. You got a one-on-one, you're throwing a bubble out there and we're catching it, and they're running for 20 yards on the same play, and we're getting tackled for no gain.
Welcome back to a reaction here on 1620 of the Zone. The man that asked that question to Coach Matt Rhule after the game, of course, is Steve Sipple. Severe reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine, taking care of you every single day. Let's go to the man from the On3 Network and Husker Online, Stephen M. Sipple. Good morning, Sip.
Good morning, Michael. How are we doing?
I'm doing all right. Obviously, a lot of people angry, a lot of people upset and disappointed about what happened yesterday. Put your finger on one thing, Sip. I know it's not easy, but put your finger on one thing that surprised you the most yesterday from the Nebraska football team.
Oh, it's really easy for me to do that. I wondered if Nebraska had a really good defense, maybe a defense that was trending towards elite. That conversation's over.
Yeah,
but I expect it to be as emphatic. Yeah, I didn't expect to be this emphatic in saying that conversation's over. I mean, Indiana had 393 yards, or what was it, 343? Excuse me. Indiana had 343 yards at halftime. Halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana's trending towards putting a number on Nebraska that it hadn't seen since 1956, when Oklahoma, I think, that rolled up 600 plus. I mean, the most Nebraska's ever given up, I think it was 656. And we're talking about Bud Wilkinson.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that. I think that you'd be talking about Bud Wilkinson at that point. So that is I was perplexed, dumbfounded by what I was watching. The ease with which Indiana moved the ball, both on the ground and through the air. Now Rourke made some beautiful pinpoint passes downfield, but I don't know, it's the whole picture.
Yeah, the best throw was made by the backup though. That throw touchdown to Surratt in the end zone, that was probably the best throw of the day.
Yeah, they didn't really. It didn't look to me like they were going to miss a beat with their backup in.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, no, that's. So why is that alarming? Because I thought that was the strength of the team.
Yeah.
Now what is it? What would you identify as the strength of Nebraska right now? I don't know where you'd start with that conversation.
Wow, it's a hard question because I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, the one highlight of the game, I think, is they finally started getting the ball to Thomas Fidone. I mean, he had a bunch of catches. It looked good. He looked athletic. But that's like one of the few things you can point to. Sip, I know ifs and buts are candy and nuts, but you go back to the fumble. It's 4th and 1. It's converted. Then the fumble happens. They go back down and score. Nebraska still gets it to 14-7. At that point, did you feel like Nebraska had a shot that they could still win this game after they had made it 14-7?
I think this is the type of game, Michael, it's hard to point to a moment or two and say, if this changed, maybe it would have been different. Because of the thorough dominance of Indiana. Maybe it would have less dominant. Maybe it would have appeared less dominant by the score. But I just don't think it's that type of game where you say, well, if Dante doesn't fumble that ball, maybe this outcome is different. I mean, it's really a stretch to say that. Or Ja'Cory Barney doesn't step out,
right?
And Nebraska gets off to a fast start. I mean, eventually, what Indiana was doing was going to take over the game. It wasn't. They were just much better. They're a much better team on that day. They're much better prepared. I mean, the execution was excellent. I mean, one of the things that really struck me on this was important to me on Friday. We went and interviewed that Fox crew, the Big Noon Kickoff crew, Liner, Brady Quinn, and Urban. And Urban Meyer said that the thing he said that struck me was Indiana just does not make mistakes, and they're tough up front.
Yeah.
And right away, my inner reaction was, that's trouble. I mean, that's trouble. and they don't make a lot of mistakes. I don't know what Signetti and that staff is doing, but that is a team that executes at a super high level.
Well, Sip, I think the answer, and for example, say you were starting Husker Online, you were starting the business, and you had to go out and you got to hire. You're going to go get people, I believe, that are like yourself, that are experienced, that know the gig, and that are winners. That's what they did. They went out and got all these guys who were former first team all-conference in their conference, their level, and they brought them all in and put them into a culture that came from James Madison that was winning. They went out and got winners. That's not potential,
it seems like it.
production.
Yeah.
That's what they got.
Yeah, Michael, it does seem like that, and that's what all coaches are trying to do, is go in that portal and identify players that fit their system and guys that can adapt quickly and be good culture guys. But it's just like anything else in life and any business. Some people are better business owners than others, right? Some people identify talent better than others. They identify people that fit better than others.
Yeah.
And Signetti, obviously, in this case, I mean, look, these conversations, as you see, change very quickly, right?
Sure.
I mean, we were saying probably the similar things about Mike Norvell less than a year ago, right? And now what are we saying about Norvell?
Yeah.
But right now, as it stands, and I don't mean to pick on Norvell. I just think
Last year was the anomaly. He's had 3 or 4 years where they didn't play well with all the money they have at Florida State. Last year was an anomaly.
It's striking to me how conversations are changing more quickly now in college football.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But right now, Signetti appears like he knows exactly what he's doing, and his record over the long term suggests that.
Oh yeah, Google him. He'll tell you. Never had a losing season. Steve Sipple joining us here live from Indianapolis here on 1620 The Zone Severe Reaction. So a couple things, right? And a lot of people obviously are calling for changes in the assistant coaching. We do know that over the course of his career, Matt Rhule has never hesitated to make changes. He fired, his offensive coordinator at Carolina in the middle of a season. Do you see any kind of changes happening in terms of play calling or whatever else before this season's over?
Well, I mean, if it continues to, if the level of struggle continues, like for instance, it did Saturday.
Yeah,
there would have to be. Now, I'm more, the person that's more apt to let it play out.
Sure.
I mean, right now Nebraska's 5-2 and 2-2, and I don't. While there's obviously concerns, I want to see it play out. Now, it's not like the concerns just cropped up. All of the concerns just cropped up yesterday. Obviously, there have been special teams issues; those continue. As far as Satterfield goes, all those calls that I see on social media and I hear from people, I would say, as you're assessing that, real quickly, I'll do this. You have to consider that they're not getting much done up front. They're very limited at running back in terms of overall talent. They're very limited at receiver in terms of overall talent. Now, what do you do as a play caller when all those things are? I mean, you're limited in what you can do as a play caller. So I thought the receiving core would be better than we've seen. They're not getting much done on the perimeter in terms of blocking, which is a big red flag. Obviously,
yeah.
The transfer receivers, the big dudes, Nayor and Banks, just not as productive as we thought they'd be. So I don't know. There's no easy answers for Satterfield. As you try to map out a plan, I think it'd be awfully difficult with the limitations you have all over the offense. I mean, they're all over the offense.
I understand what you're saying, but too many times I've watched teams at all different levels make a change in the guy calling the plays with the same players, and those players look better. Great example, of course, is with your partner. Your partner a couple of years ago, they changed defensive, coordinators, and all of a sudden they tackled better and the same players, right? So I think that part of it, yes, I think guys are limited, but I don't think they're that bad. Do you think Dante Dowdell was that bad through the first couple of games? I remember you thinking he was pretty good. And then I remember we talked about Nayor and Banks and those guys being pretty good. I think the play calling is horrible. I think everything they do is poor, in terms of getting the ball to the guys that need to get the ball to. That's what I think. And they're too lateral too. Too much going side to side.
Yeah.
Too lateral.
I respect. I'm not. I would never say you're wrong about that. I just think, and when you assess it, I'm just saying in the assessment that Matt Rhule's got to make.
Sure.
There's a lot that goes into the conversation.
Yeah.
And now, when you do the dissection of play by play, call by call, yeah, there's definitely times I'm like, what is this? But I do that virtually every game I watch. Whether it's Georgia, whether it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Sure.
God knows I do it with the Saints. And I do it with that. I do it with Satterfield. I wonder sometimes, but I also have to take into account what he's dealing with, and I don't know. There's just I thought. Now, as far as the running backs go, yeah, I thought Dante Del is really explosive, but he's limited right now as a sophomore, in that he doesn't. He's just the guy that's going to try to hammer you. He's got to make that evolution in his game where he gets to the second level and can juke you with his shoulders or do whatever he can to get by the guy and not just try to run through it.
Right.
So it's just, and that's not a Sipple original comment. That's something that Matt Rhule and Satterfield have spoken at the podium about.
Yeah.
And then, the Johnsons are just they're just limited. They're good backs, but they're not the guys that are going to change a game like that for you. They're not that. They don't have that kind of talent.
Yeah. Sipple, I know you're going to be on a plane soon. My last question for you is, how many points would I have to give you for you to take Nebraska over Ohio State?
Oh, probably 30.
So 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. I think it's that type of game. If you just any objective assessment right now, on the heels of this Indiana game, really it's just how many points can Nebraska score on Ohio State, and then what we saw defensively. What's a fair expectation? You just have to be reasonable about it and objective.
Thing is, if you're right, how do they bounce back emotionally from 2 losses like that? I don't know if
you just don't let emotion get into it. Now it's easier said than done. You just have to be somewhat cold. You just have to. But it's hard to ask players to do that. It's not hard to ask coaches to do that. You just got to go work.
Yeah.
And understand what's in front of you, and don't get it. Just don't let emotion play into it. That's fans can do that. That's what we do. That's what happens. But over at that building, the Nebraska football complex, emotion can't be a big part of the conversation, in my opinion. Not right now.
Yeah.
You just got to look at this for what it is, and just try to make as many corrections, as much improvement as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And in the 4 or 5 days you have at practice.
I completely understand what you're saying, but 40 years ago, Sip at 18 years old, how did you handle your emotions when something went wrong? It's kind of hard to be a child and do it. It's not. It's not easy.
It's really difficult. You hope the veterans on the team can kind of take charge, because some of those guys aren't 18; they're 28.
They are a little bit older, and they're the ones making some mistakes. Sip, I appreciate you guys. Have safe travels.
All right, thank you, Michael.
All right. Stephen M. Sipple from Husker Online. We'll take a break. We'll come back in order. We will go to Scott, Lance, John, and Ryan here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Ellison back in the backfield. Back to throw. Jackson throwing for the end zone. The pass is caught. I think touchdown Indiana. Yep. Arms are in the air. Surratt beat the coverage on the near boundary. We lost view of him as he goes down to that corner. But Indiana tacks on 6 more, and they are over 40 points again this season. That makes 6 straight games their offense has put up over 40 points.
I'm not embarrassed of our players, but I'm embarrassed of the job that I did, to get our team ready. I have to do a better job next week and the weeks after. I didn't sense any quit in the guys. Probably could have kept the score down by maybe punting, a couple of those 4th downs or not throwing it and just kind of seeding the game. But I thought it was really important for our team as they went through this, that we continue to try to attack. And there's a bunch of young players, the Dylans of the world. I want them to have those throws, those opportunities, and try to fight back.
Welcome back. Real reaction here on 1620 The Zone. 402-951-1620. I completely agree with that, what he said there. It's one of my favorite chants in all of sports from the U.S. Army. Going to fight. If you can't fight no more, you can get knocked down, bleed a while, get back up, and fight some more. You got to keep going. You can't just say, I don't want to get blown out. Let me do like a Bill Callahan and play the game to where we can just get a field goal and not get blown out. No, you got to keep going. You got to keep fighting. Yeah, it may get your butt kicked now, but you would hope showing that fight to those young players help you win down the road. That's what you would hope. That's how it should work. That's how it works at almost every other business in the world. And hopefully it works for Nebraska that way. Let's go back to the phones. It's where Scott is this morning. Scott, thanks for holding, man. Floor is yours. Scott? You there, Scott? Nope. All right, let's go to Lance. Good morning, Lance. How are you?
Good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing okay, man.
Good. One of the things I wanted to say is over the years, the solo show you've improved greatly at. So keep up with that. But in regards to the game Saturday, it just was. I wasn't surprised. I think I mentioned to you. I figured Indiana was going to win the game.
Yeah.
They were favored. All the stats show that they were the better team. Offensively and defensively, they were rated really high. So I'm more concerned with the level of shock by some of the fans that think maybe we're a lot better than we really are, because it just doesn't play out that way when you really dig into the game. My concern is you have to remove Satterfield at the end of the year. No one wants to say, let's talk about Rhule losing his job, but it's clear that he needs to go. And then I think you look at Foley, and your mantra can't be the standard is the standard, and then you keep the guy that's probably statistically the worst special teams coach in America. So those are some things, big picture, end of year, that they need to discuss. But right now, the key is to really find out what they can do on offense in order to move the ball. Whether you're running mesh with Lloyd and Carter more often to try to get them in space and use some athleticism. This offense does not generate big plays, and that's my biggest problem with it. And so they have to start getting that ball to playmakers' hands in space. And so we'll see if they do that the rest of the year. It'll be weird going into next year, possibly having 3 brand new coordinators. But we're approaching that fork in the road, and right now they just need to get to 6 to 7 wins.
Yeah, no doubt. Lance, I appreciate it. So Nebraska yesterday, in terms of big plays, they had 8. They only had 3 plays on the ground that were more than 10 yards, and then they had 5 plays through the air, which are more than 15. Indiana totally had 15 big plays. Nebraska coming into the game and only given up 3 plays of 30-plus yards. That's it. Yesterday, Indiana had 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Like 3 all year. Indiana had 4 yesterday. Let's go to John, who's been on the hold the longest. Good morning, John. How are you?
Hey, good, Michael. How are you, man?
Doing okay.
Good. Hey, real quick, what was on full display yesterday to me is coaching matters. Signetti is doing it with a bunch of 3-star athletes from JMU and Ohio at the quarterback position.
Yep.
Our offense has been regressing game after game after game. And when I hear Matt Rhule say he was surprised at what happened or he didn't see this coming, defensively, I didn't see it coming in terms of giving up 56 points. But offensively, this has been a train wreck for a year and a half under Marcus Satterfield. And like you said, he may be a very nice man, but he's not getting the job done in his current role. And my question to you would be, at these big D1 athletic programs, can't they bring in somebody to help this guy right now that's out there as an offensive passing game analyst or running game analyst to help this guy and show him how to call a productive, efficient, and creative game? Because right now, he may be the worst caller in the Big Ten, if not all Power 5 conferences, and Rhule seems content with letting him sit there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, John. I don't know. So they've already got guys on the staff who can help, right? You know that. The quarterback coach, for example, who we've seen in the past when they were together, they certainly had their most success, right? Satterfield's had his most success with Rhule when they had, a team of a guy who could be the run coordinator and a guy who could be the passing coordinator. They had that. The problem is that I don't believe when I watch this that they have a real understanding of what they do well and what the players do well. That's what it feels like sometimes when you're watching the game. And maybe that goes back to something that I don't see, and that's practice. We don't see practice, so maybe it's something that goes back to the way things are practiced. But Glenn Thomas was brought in here to help with a lot of things, and I think Rhule thought to himself, okay, we had some success when I had Glenn Thomas and I had Marcus Satterfield together, and maybe I could do that again. But from what we've seen, obviously that's not the case. What they're seeing now, though, is little brief moments of success, and many times those plays are off-schedule plays. And you can live your whole life making off-schedule plays if you have Mahomes at quarterback or Brett Favre at quarterback, somebody like that at quarterback. But for the most part, you have to have on-scheduled plays with quarterbacks who make those things happen. Drew Brees was 6 foot tall, decent athlete as a tennis player. The reason why he had so much success in the league is because he made the basic play excellent. That's what they're not doing now. They're not making the basic play. Coach Rhule said it. You throw the ball out there on the smoke, that wide receiver's got to make the block for the other wide receiver. It's got to happen. You saw it with Indiana in the second half. That block when they threw the ball to the bottom of the screen and blocked the 2 guys, touchdown. You got to be able to make those plays. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will chat with Ryan. Stay right there. And Andrew and Bill as well. We come back here with Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
4th and goal. Emmett the back. 2 wide outs. Check that 3 to the right, 1 to the near side. Raiola, 4th and goal from the 6. Gets the snap. Looks left, looks middle, gets hit, goes down. Sacked at the 15-yard line. Thwarting another Husker drive as he was hit by Kamala, the outstanding defensive end for Indiana, along with Aiden Fisher.
I do believe with all my heart, I believe that in games like this, there's a ton of lessons and a ton of opportunities. And so, getting out there offensively and trying to drive the ball, or defensively, playing some of the young players, you give guys a chance to get reps, versus a really good team. But I just think that I felt they had our number today. And again, that's the part that really infuriates me as the head coach. People are going to point at this person, everything should be pointed right at me. I usually can see things coming. And I'll tell you right now, I did not see this coming. And so.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine, taking care of you, whether you are 80 or 8 months. Keys of the game real quick. I had Dylan under pressure, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hurries, 3 interceptions. They also had Indiana 7 tackles for loss. Finishing drive rate, we talked a lot about that. Nebraska had 4 possessions where they crossed the 40, only 1 touchdown. That's 1.75 points per successful drive. That is really bad. It means Nebraska's going to drop below 3 points per successful drive for the season. And then forced turnovers. You have to force turnovers to beat a team like Indiana. 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles, 2 lost. And, of course, Indiana had the 1 pick at the end of the half on the Hail Mary. So did not get any of those things done, and Nebraska loses the game 56-7. Let's go to Ryan. Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Michael?
Pretty good, man.
Well, I thought we were done with these Sunday morning calls like this. Thought this was the I guess not.
Yeah.
I had a few points here.
Yep.
I pretty much called in, not to your show, but to a few shows last year, 1620, and said that Satter Fraud was terrible, and I got laughed at that it was too early. And he is. He's not going to get any better. Change needs to be made. I don't know why Nebraska fans are such a forgiving fan base. They seem to put up with a lot of crap. And to get beat 56-7, that's just unexcusable. I don't care. I'm just frustrated. I've looked at this situation. I don't know if something's going on up there internally. It seems like we always have some type of problem. So I don't know. Just kind of frustrated this morning and wanted to get that off my chest. So.
All right, Ryan, I completely understand. It was what O-Man Doug talked about when he called, and what I talked about at the beginning of the show. Husker fans make this investment, this incredible investment. It's in product that they buy. It's tickets they buy. It's the travel they do, the dedication, the time they spend, all of that. They make this incredible investment. And the ROI, the return on investment, is just not good enough. All they want is a little joy in life. That's all they want. They want a Saturday where the next Monday when they go to work, they're not getting made fun of by Iowa and who happens to work next to them in the cubicle. They want to be able to go to church on Sunday morning and not try to avoid the guy who is a low-key Michigan fan who wants to jump all over you, although they lost yesterday as well. That's the goal. All you want is a little bit of return on your investment. That's all you're asking for. And currently, it's not what they're getting. The ROI has been incredibly poor, especially basing on how much investment has been put in this program. So I understand that. Let's go to Andrew. Good morning, Andrew. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Oh,
what's
man.
Up? How are you doing?
Nothing good. Nothing good. It's been a rough week. My Saints got killed. Nebraska took it on the chin. Omaha Central won. That was great. That was fun.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, the Saints did take it on the chin pretty hard.
Brutal, man. Brutal.
Yep. But anyway, I'm not here to defend Satterfield.
Yeah.
I think his offensive calls are bad. But there's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about.
Ooh, what is
that's Donovan Raiola.
Okay.
His offensive line have sucked.
Andrew?
They don't block well.
Who's the best offensive lineman, Andrew, that they have?
I would say Scott, the center.
It's probably Ben Scott. Exactly. A guy who came from someplace else, got a bunch of starts. Yeah. Yep. Ben Scott's probably the best one. What about the guy who's got the most starts, I believe, now yeah. He jumped, he had a false start again. Another one.
So why on this Sunday and Saturday night are we banging on Satterfield and nobody's calling for Raiola's head?
I think because I think Donovan's getting everything he can out of the offensive linemen, and I don't think they're playing horribly. I go back and I watch, and I don't think they're not as bad as they were 2 years ago. They're better. Are they great? No. Are they very good? No. They have a lot of good plays. Everything around it is not playing very well. I think the offensive line is not playing poorly. I hate to say that because that's what everybody points to, but I don't believe they are. That's my eyes. I'm not an offensive line coach, but that's what I see.
Okay. And then I hear we have some good offensive linemen we're redshirting.
Yes.
Why are we redshirting them?
Because I think they're looking towards 2025 as the year. Easier schedule, second year with a very fine 5-star quarterback. I think they're pointing towards that.
But kids want to play now, and how are you going to get kids to come to redshirt?
Yeah.
That's not attractive to big-time high school players.
You got to make it worth their while, man. You got to make it worth their while to say, show them.
I believe you put the best player on the field. This redshirting crap just pisses me off.
I look, Andrew, I completely understand, but I think those guys are good. I don't think they're ready to play right away. I mean, it took Gunnar Gatula a couple of years to be ready to come in there and play. These young guys who they like, I don't think they're ready to come in and play right now and be better. That's why.
And here's one thing I will also add to this.
Okay.
Is we don't do one thing well enough we don't pass block well enough or run block well enough.
I agree.
To have a consistent identity. So I think we're kind of just trying anything.
Yep.
On the offensive play calling. And I didn't watch the game closely, and usually people have better eyes. It was said after the game that there were people open, but he was checking down so often, Dylan.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's how. So obviously, I watched it on TV. I was not at the game, but I will tell you, being at games that I've watched in Memorial Stadium, I think there's many times where he is missing guys who I think are open enough that he should be giving them chances. I do believe that, but I think that's because he's young and he's seeing ghosts occasionally, and he's trying to get rid of the ball and do the right thing instead of sometimes taking a chance.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's all I can say.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry, Andre. I get other calls. I got to take one more break right before we got two more. I got to take one right now. We'll take one right now. Greg, stay right there. Bill and Jim, we'll get right back. But just about Dylan Raiola, remember, he's 19. He's got 7 starts. He's got a long way to go before he is at the level where you expect him to be. You have to give guys that age with that much experience, you've got to give them time to get ready and then to perform. And he hasn't gotten that yet. We'll take a break. We'll come back here.
6:17 left. This one no longer a doubt. 49-7 Hoosiers. Shotgun look. Ives the back. Snap back. Flip it over the middle. Deflected. Picked off. A deflected ball at the line of scrimmage. Intercepted, the third INT of the game as Hardy makes the pick. The true freshman for Indiana. Now they're in business at the 21-yard line. The third INT thrown today by Dylan on a day that's going to be forgettable for Husker fans. This will be one you want to just burn the tape.
I'll be curious to see what they pick and choose to go back and revisit. It's always a fine line.
Mm-hmm. Green's the back. Jackson awaits the snap. Puts it off to Green. Left side. Touchdown, Indiana. And the Hoosiers over 50 on the Nebraska Black Shirts. I am baffled.
Yeah, stunned.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. Coming into the game, Dylan Raiola on his dropbacks have been pressured 33% of the time. Yesterday, right about the same, 35% of the time he was pressured yesterday against Indiana. Total hurries were 7, 8, 9, 10. 9 of them by your main starters. Only one sack and one quarterback hit with that sack. Overall, the best offensive lineman would have been, I guess, Mazuka because of his high pass grade, which was 86, but his run grade was horrible. And Justin Evans and Ben Scott both had good pass grades. The best run grade was Henry Latovsky, who played all 72 snaps. Let's go back to the phones. We're going to run through the phones now. Let's start with Bill. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good morning, Mike.
Hey, man.
I want to get back on Satterfield, I guess, because I don't know why he was ever hired to start with.
Okay.
And the play calling is atrocious, I think, but that's neither here nor there, and I'm glad you did address it earlier. But, I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and I wonder if where we're going to get one more win at if we keep playing like this.
Yeah, Bill, the hard part's going to be if it happens like most people think it's going to happen and they get blown out tomorrow, next Saturday, how do they handle playing UCLA when they come to town? That's the real question for me. Yeah.
I hate to even start to think that, but my gosh, after that exhibition yesterday, I'm just, where are we going to get one more win? That's kind of my concern, I guess, at this point. So anyway, thank you, Mike.
No problem. I understand, Bill. I feel the same way. And I know I was talking about it with Sipple mentally. He said you just got to not think about it that way. But it's you take back-to-back butt whippings, and then you have to deal with a UCLA team that's maybe feeling good when they come in here. Certainly a possibility. Let's go back to the phones where Jim is. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I hope you're doing well.
Well, I was hoping that I would never have to make this phone call, but unfortunately I do. But there's a couple things that I think we need to talk about. Number one, I do not think our offensive line is that talented, and I think the results of a running game show for it. If we even had an average offensive line, we'd be able to run the ball on some of the teams that we have been unable to run on, and that gives Dylan Raiola that's a huge handicap for him because he doesn't have a running game, and so the defensive linemen are teeing off on the rush. You could see that with Indiana. But the problem that I had, and I think you alluded to it earlier, was that when you watch a game on TV, you cannot see if there are people open. And there were a couple times where they would show a different view or whatever, and we had receivers wide open, and he was just dumping them off into the check down receiver. And the other thing that I am a little concerned about is, and we've talked about this before, is whether or not White's defense with only 3 down linemen can stand up to a Big Ten rushing attack when you have the type of linemen that they have. And one of the things that people overlook is that Indiana's offensive line had been there for 4 years together. So they didn't bring in people from outside the program. They had been there for a while. And that's and our offensive linemen have been there for a while, but they just have never developed like they need to.
Jim, I appreciate the call. I agree with you that, although I think it's an average offensive line that Nebraska has with average talent. I do not believe they have above average talent or an above offensive line, but I do believe it is average. And that's not being mean or nice or anything. I just think it's an average offensive line. The run blocking yesterday was horrible compared the way it's been leading up to that game. But I think part of that, too, was once you get behind, they know you're going to throw. Maybe you try to mix a run in there. I don't know. I just thought everything gets out of whack when you're down 2 scores. That's when the offensive coordinator has to say, I'm sticking with what I'm doing. I'm doing this because this is what I game planned all week, even though I'm down 14 or I'm down 21. And it's hard sometimes to stick with those things. Let's go back to Greg from Michigan. What's up, Greg?
Hey, Michael, I appreciate your show and I love your perspective. I thought I'd be cooled down after yesterday. Been a fan since '77. But this offense, man, has got to change. I mean, Satterfield has got to go. I don't care if it's mid-year. This style offense doesn't work anymore. Nick Saban went away from this style offense. And I want people to go and watch the Michigan State game.
Yeah.
Where they beat Iowa. The play calling in that game was superb with a band-aided offensive line.
Yep.
It is unreal. And you don't hire a McGuire to learn how to coach at a place like Nebraska. I'm sorry. But Foley, McGuire, and Satterfield have to go, in my opinion. Otherwise, there is going to be no changes. The O-line, I like what's in the cupboard, so I'm not harping on that. But there's no way this offensive scheme will work in the Big Ten, in the country. Everybody has seen that and gone away from it. That's just my opinion.
I'm with you, Greg. I appreciate it. And great call on Michigan State. I talked about that earlier. They didn't punt yesterday against Iowa, a defense that has always been solid from up the middle. Their safeties. We know what Phil Parker does as a schemer. They got pushed around. Every time Iowa made a play, Michigan State came back and made 2 or 3 more. They looked incredible. I watched that whole game. It was incredible how efficient they were with a young quarterback who at the beginning of the year, by the way, looked horrible. Their freshman quarterback looked horrible. Yesterday, it looked like he was a junior. It was amazing how much better he looked than he did to start the season. Nebraska, by the way, yesterday, the running backs, one run over 10 yards. Remember, the longest run was by Harburg in the game for Nebraska. 49-yard rushing on 20 carries, 7 catches for 29 yards. And, of course, Dante Dowdell's fumble, the second of the season. Let's go to Rick. Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for taking my call.
Oh, no problem.
I think yesterday was the worst defeat I've ever seen by a decent team, meaning the Husker defense. But my biggest question is, I was very vocal last year that I did not think Raiola would come here, and for whatever reason he came. I'm sure dollars had a little something to do with it, maybe the family and all that stuff. But what I'm wondering is, whatever's going to happen this next Saturday, I wonder how long Raiola will stick around, and I'm talking about number 15, not the uncle. It'll be interesting. He's jumped from one place to another. I think, he's got a good arm, but I don't think he's going to stick around too long. If nothing's going to change with the offensive line. What Indiana did yesterday, they just perched back and then they just challenged him to throw underneath them. I mean, you're talking to a former third-string quarterback here. It was just a massacre. It was, and this guy that's coaching that Indiana team, he looked like Hannibal Lecter. I mean, he was just focused and.
He never smiled.
He
never smiled. He never smiled, Rick. The whole game, he didn't smile, no matter what they did. It was incredible.
How would you like to live with that guy?
I know.
Anyway, Michael, great show. Thanks for taking my call, and talk to you later.
All right, talk to you later, Rick. No, he talks about this all the time, Kurt Cinetti. I listened to a couple of his press conferences, and I listened to him talk. And when he's talking philosophy, get better every day. We know that. Do the right thing. Yes. Don't take credit for what you have done. Take credit for what you're going to do. It's remarkable. That man is a futurist. I guarantee you, he's done with what happened yesterday. He's long moved on. That was yesterday. We'll take one more break. Joe, when we come back, we'll grab you and we'll wrap up the show here on a very disappointing Sunday following the Huskers' 56-7 loss to Indiana here on Severe Reaction.
Folks, it's hard to put into words the job that Signetti has done. This is a program with no history, none. And in 1 year, he's got this thing into the top 15.
Not a lot of people listening to us that know who Bill Mallory was.
Very few. Another kneel down. One more of those, and we'll put this one in the books. Thank goodness.
And we just weren't able to really get anything done on all three sides of the ball today. So very, very, very disappointing. I appreciate all the fans that came here. I appreciate everyone that supports us. And this was certainly not good enough by any stretch. And for that, I'm sorry.
Welcome back. It's a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally, and brought to you by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. Let's go back to the phones. That's where Joe is this morning. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Mike. I love your show.
Thanks, Joe.
Right now, my brain is a bit scrambled like the eggs I'm about to make here. So many people, and with your analysis and a lot of the things that people have brought to the table, there's so many things going on. I've been a fan since Devaney. Midway through 2018, Adrian Martinez's first year, about midway through that year, I said, after looking at all of the quarterbacks, and I'm not talking about a Tommy Frazier top quarterback, of all the guys that were legitimate quarterbacks, I thought Adrian Martinez was the most talented quarterback that Nebraska ever had. So now you try to juxtapose what we have with a five-star Dylan Raiola with somebody that Adrian Martinez can bring to the table. And you've just got through saying, somebody just called and said, this type of offense doesn't work. We've been complaining about Marcus Satterfield. Marcus Satterfield is Bill Callahan's Kevin Cosgrove. I can't believe I'm saying this, but when you bring it logically, trying to come to a conclusion about this, are we best if we don't go to bowl the game and force Rhule's hand to make some changes?
No, Joe. No. They got to go to a bowl game. Got to go to a bowl game. He'll still make changes if he has to. You got to go to a bowl game. You have to.
Aren't you trying to beat a dead horse here?
Let's beat the hell out of that horse and let's go to a bowl game.
Okay, I'll trust your judgment.
All right, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you got to go to a bowl game. Let's go to Chris. What's up, Chris? Chris, are you there? Go ahead, Chris.
Yep, I'm here.
Sorry, that's the wrong button. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, love the show, Michael.
Thanks, man.
Hey, I just want to talk. It's kind of like our fans are a little bipolar. We want the success, but then we talk about Dylan Raiola leaving and Rhule leaving if we have success. It's kind of like we want the success, but then we're afraid of it. That we're afraid our best players are going to leave for another program or better money. Or I've just heard that so much today. And then, I don't know. What is your opinion on that?
Well, Chris, think of it this way. And I'm not saying that I think Dylan Raiola is going to leave, but he played at 4 different high schools because his dad wanted to get him in the spot where he would be able to perform the best. And then he commits to, going to Ohio State and then Georgia. And then, he comes here because he's going to be able to start right away. I would worry a little bit if they don't have success and his dad, who obviously wants to get him in the NFL, thinks that there's a chance that he can go someplace else and succeed. I would worry about that. I certainly, not the money more than anything else. He wants to see his son get better. And if his son doesn't get better here, it could happen.
Yeah, most definitely. But on the other hand, if we do have success and we're winning 10 games, people are afraid they're going to leave too. And I just don't understand that end of.
I don't get that one. I don't get that one. The only place people talk about all the time is Rhule leaving and go back to Penn State. And going to home isn't always the best thing. So I don't worry about that. That's the one that people talk about all the time.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Michael.
All right, Chris, I appreciate it. No, think about it this way. You're in a situation right now where, and I mentioned this earlier, the investment that Nebraska fans are putting into it and the lack of return on investment they're getting and the lack of joy they're getting, and they're coming off a game like yesterday. I understand. I understand where you are, but long before the New Orleans Saints got good at one point and went to multiple NFC championship games and won a Super Bowl, I sold bags outside the Superdome. Between $0.25 and $1 and sometimes $5 if we made the bags up nice at my grandmother's house, Swagman bags. I understand what true losing is and being committed to a program or a team and then watching them suffer. I get it. I know. But here's the bottom line. And the reason why I named that old show that I had years ago, The Bottom Line, was because it's true. The bottom line is about results. The bottom line is about winning. How you win really doesn't matter. Doesn't, as long as you don't lose. And as I said earlier, 19 games. That's where you are right now. You're 19 games, sitting at 5-2, going to a very good Ohio State team. You're going to be an underdog by probably 25 to 27 points. You got to go in there and you got to play your best football game. You can't think about what happened on Saturday. You can't think about what's going to happen the Saturday after that. You can't think about any of that. You got to play your best football game next Saturday. You've got to go to Columbus and give them everything you have. Miami of Ohio did that to them early in the year and stuck around for a half. You have to give them everything you have. And if you lose by 30, you lose by 30. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully, if you do have to lose, it's a game where you look back and you go, we did everything we could do to win that game and just came up short. And then maybe you're sitting at 5-3. And then UCLA comes to town. Second to last home game. Probably going to be a little chilly. UCLA, who's traveled the globe this season, coming to play you. It's a game you have to win. USC, sitting below 500 with losses to Minnesota and Maryland. And then you come home and you get Wisconsin, a team you haven't beaten since 2012 regular season. Can you get more fired up for a game than against a team in Wisconsin who you haven't beaten since 2012? And then Iowa is your rivalry game on Black Friday at night there in Kinnick. Everything is still in front of them. They're not going to win a national championship. Nobody thought that. They're not going to make the 12-team playoff. Nobody thought that. I don't think anybody thought they'd win the Big Ten. We thought they could win 7 or 8 games and go to a bowl game. That is still out there. You can still do that. You just got to fix the little things and believe you can win and go out there and do that. We'll be back next Sunday at 8 a.m., of course, following whatever happens at Ohio State. We'll look back at that game, get you ready for UCLA. Have a great rest of your week. Remember, it's only 19 games.